Hey guys, this is National Master Kevin Yang back at it with another video. So, today we'll be talking about a game that I played against none other than NiceChessD, and let us begin. So, e4, g6, d4, bishop g7. What's this called? This is called the modern defense. What do? Well, I don't control the center. I act like a little wagging dog and just sit back and relax. C4, D6, not doing anything. I'm creeping in my burrow, nothing much. Knight F3, E6, now H4. So at this moment, I sort of think, our friend NiceChessD is very ambitious, right? Going for the blood. What am I gonna do? Well, I'm just gonna do what I'm currently doing. H6, nothing much. I'm just saying, if you play H5, I'm gonna move up. No confrontation. Bishop E3, A6, A4, Knight E7. I'm just not doing anything. Queen D2, Knight F6, Knight H2. Now, I thought that was a really good move because my goal is to come here, right? And now NiceChessD makes a prophylactic move saying, I'm not allowing you to go there, but I'm also maybe preparing this G4 move. I play B6 because I want to get this bishop out. F4, bishop B7, and now D5. And at this moment, I was like, how do I break through this chain, right? Because I want this square to be for me, right? I want it open. I want something to happen, so I shout. I go B5. First of all, you're like, what? What is it? What happens if it just takes? Well, I take here, take, and I get this pawn. That's the goal. I'm going to sacrifice this guy to get the middle guy. And if you take this way, I'm just going to take, rook takes, queen takes, knight takes, queen a1, queen d1, take, king takes, and knight takes pawn, with the threat of bishop takes pawn as well. And most importantly, I'm busting this center. That's what's most important here. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to bust this guy so I can finally break through in the center. That's the goal. It's always been the goal. CB5, and now I take on D5. B takes A6, bishop takes, rook takes. And queen D3, I go queen to A8. Just saying, I'm going to support this middle pawn, but I'm also going to put pressure on this A file. Queen B5 check, I play C6. Queen B4, and I play queen D8, and all of a sudden it gets tricky. It gets tricky because there's this move E5 that I wasn't too aware about. What I should have done is I should have ignored it. I should have played castles, and I should have let our friend NiceChessD take this pawn. Because in reality, my development is much more important than protecting one pawn. Right? I thought I could delay development a little bit just to keep that pawn, but now I realize how important this castling even is, because you get the rook out here, and all of a sudden all the pressure is directed at white. So it's really that, remember how I talked about like this shift of momentum, right? This queen d8 move shows that I'm not having full momentum right now, but even though I have confidence in my position, maybe we're being a little bit defensive here. After e5, d takes e5, there's this move bishop to c5, and now I just sort of like, I'm not liking my position. So after e4, there's queen to b7, and all of a sudden I'm like, no, I'm in trouble. Rook a5, b4, and I'm like, maybe, I don't know. right? So at this point, I was sort of like already shaken because number one, there's this threat, right? Number two, there's this threat. And number three, this rook has almost nowhere to go because if rook a8, bishop takes e7, queen takes e7, and queen takes rook. So rook a8 is not a move. The other idea was knight d7, but after bishop takes knight, queen takes knight, well, that rook is gone. So I gotta protect that rook. I only have this move rook a5. So after b4, I said my rook has nowhere to go. So I said rook takes, pawn takes, knight d7, opening up this diagonal, which at the moment I thought I was worse because somehow I had thought, okay, I know that white is going to advance this way. However, I do have the diagonal to work with, so maybe I have chances. And indeed, here I am winning. I really underestimated my advantage. I thought I was losing, right? Queen b3, queen a5, just putting more pressure on this. Rook c1, d4. Castles, d takes pawn. Rook d1, and now queen a7. Another move I could have made was the move knight d5, just simply saying, you may not access my d7 knight, I'm just going to shut it down right away. Queen a7, rook a1, and now c2. I'm going to attack this rook, I'm going to attack this rook, I'm going to win an exchange somewhere. Queen takes c2, bishop takes, rook takes, queen takes, knight takes, a5, and at this point I'm relieved. I tell my opponent NiceChessD, I'm sort of like, I cannot believe we've gotten this far, right? Because surely there were so many mistakes on my part in this game, but I just got lucky. So after king e6, I'm solidifying my position. I need to eliminate this pass pawn, get my knights out, get my rook into the game, and all of a sudden we overwhelm NiceChessD. So how did we crawl out of this? I mean, the honesty is I got lucky, right? b5 was a good move that I played, but queen a8, queen b5, c6. So at this point, I would have to say the closest thing to me losing was the move queen d8. I just had to castle. I had to prioritize development over material, and even as a national master, I failed to do that. Sometimes our human characteristics get the better of us in strategy. That's going to happen, and you just gotta accept it. In this case, I really had to suffer for it, but at least I didn't lose the game. I was close. I got lucky, right? So b4. Now, maybe I did get lucky, maybe I didn't, but I would say I didn't make the best choice in terms of um, opening wise, right? I felt like you saw my modern setup. It wasn't too active. Maybe I just gave NiceChessD a little bit too much play. But with the diagonal and the pressure later on, eventually I got what I wanted. It just took a bit more than I expected. So hopefully you enjoyed it, and let's get into this next game of NiceChessD. Now, here I play the move b3. This is what is called the Nimzo-Larsen, or the Nimzovich-Larsen. It's two people, Aaron Nimzovich, Ben Larsen. Right? So two people morphed in the same opening because they are. So b3, d5, bishop b2, knight c6, e3, a6. So a6 is standard saying, I'm going to play e5 and you are not going to play this bishop b5 move. So I play knight f3. I could have alternatively also played f4, d4 as well, c4. It really is a matter of choice. Knight f3, bishop g4, bishop e2, f6. Now this is good in terms of wanting to get e5 in, but once I play d4, now all of a sudden, black is like, oh, I can't play e5 anymore, I can only play e6 now. So here queen d7 happens, knight d2, and I'm just slowly building. I'm saying after bishop f5, I'm going to get my knight to h4, I'm going to trade, bring my bishop out. And here our friend NiceChessD just went Hail Mary. Sacrificed a little bit too much. Bishop takes g6, king d8, bishop to d3, e4, bishop to e2, and here I'm starting to revolt on the queen side. This is quite typical of the Nimzowitsch-Larsen defense. You'll see this very common pawn structure that forms from the Nimzo-Larsen. Queen f5, c takes d5, and like I'm doing in this game most of the time, 9 times out of 10, maybe 7 times out of 10, white's goal is to break open the center, right? In some cases, black plays f5. You'll notice that most of the time this pawn on d5 and e4, they will stay, right? Sometimes f5, knight f6, knight e7, another pawn at c6. The structure will stay. But if you can break it open, queen f5, queen b1, saying, I'm gonna come here. I could have also played g4 now that I realize, because after g4, you bring the queen there, and I have queen to b1 as well. So I play queen to b1, but now there is the move of bishop to b4. Does our friend NiceChessD see it? Well, rook h4. I mean, it does the job of protecting this pawn, but goodbye knight. King d7, bishop back, g5, and now g4. Just putting the finishing touches. Queen trade, queen check, queen g8, getting the other bishop out, putting pressure on this pin. King d7, bishop to e6, bishop to f8, and there is checkmate. So what can we learn from these? Well, the opening wasn't too bad, really. The opening was nothing. Knight takes, A takes, H takes, and the main mistake had to be the move E5. It just had to be a little bit rushed. Loved the idea, but the execution was a bit timed off. You know what I mean? Hopefully you do. Bishop takes G6, and you'll see I kept that pawn, and then I started expanding. So at this moment, here's a tip. If you know that white is expanding, right, this pawn structure, white wants to break this central pawn structure, how does black reinforce this part of his pawn structure? Well, there is one move that does the trick. That is the move f5. After c takes d5, knight to b4, bring the other knight to f6, take d5, and all of a sudden, it's going to be a very, very tense game. So instead, queen f5 happens, and now c takes d5, queen takes, bishop c4, and queen b1, or alternatively g4. Both moves work. Rook h4, now the knight drops, and bishop c4, g4, and I started putting on the covers. So this was a really chaotic game. I mean, the reason why I won was because I broke through the center. I got the initiative that I needed. I took this critical pawn on g6, and all those things tipped the game in my favor, gave me the win, and really, it's an honor playing against all our chess club members. So thank you, and I will see you next time.